Okay, today I'm going to show you how to create 2D landscape images in Photoshop. Really easy, and if you like The Mandalorian or Star Wars like I do, this video is for you. Let's get into this. Okay, so here you see I start with a picture of The Mandalorian. I'm going to resize this just to give me a bit of extra space. Not really a massive necessity at this time. But it means I can maneuver things around when I need to shortly when I start adding more and more elements into the image. So the first thing I'm going to do is cut out the Mandalorian. I'm going to use the remove background and the quick actions there. Very simple, done. I'm not that fussed about refining the edges at the moment because I think they've done a pretty damn good job as it is. Now I want to do is change the background. I don't like working on that for that funny, strange kind of pixelated background. I'd rather have a solid colour in the background. So a solid colour adjustment layer, which I can change later anyway. Here's a picture of Grogu. This is the name of Baby Yoda. You may know him as Baby Yoda, but in a recent episode, he's been named now as Grogu. Fantastic. So I'm going to refine the hair a little bit here. If I use the refine edge brush, and speed it up a little weeny bit for you. You don't need to watch me do all these stuff. I think this entire video took me about 35 minutes or so, but I have speeded a few of the sections up. I'm going to apply the mask to that layer so I can copy and paste it straight onto our Mandalorian layer. Obviously he needs to be resized. He's a Baby Yoda, shouldn't be bigger than the Mandalorian, but we can always change him a little bit later on anyway. I'm not too worried about that. All these characters are going to be turned into silhouettes anyway, so we're not too worried about edges at the moment. And I'm going to use things like tree elements in a little while. You'll see that there. This is Ahsoka. If you know of the Star Wars series called Clone Wars, you will know that Ahsoka is a big character in that series, and recently in The Mandalorian she made a little bit of an appearance, which is pretty awesome. Again, she's going to be a silhouette, so just the colour black is fine for what we have here. Just resizing all the bits and pieces. These layers don't need any colour in them, so I'm going to just turn the lightness down in the panel there, hue saturation panel. Just turn it all the way down. I'm not worried about it being destructive or non-destructive at this stage. I won't be worried about getting those back. Just going to recrop the edges here. This is more of the kind of thing I want to be looking at, a kind of 4:5 kind of aspect ratio, give or take. It'll look good in Instagram and on Facebook stories, that kind of stuff. So that's kind of what I wanted to do, and I want Ahsoka and the Grogu Baby Yoda in the middle, or or Yoda in the middle of the image rather than the Mando who's moving stuff around here. Mando is obviously a little bit closer to us, the camera, if you like. And here I'm going to add a foreground element. So I'm just going to add a marquee or elliptical marquee tool and just quickly add background colour in there, and it's going to be black for now. Remember, this is all going to be silhouettes, so I'm not worried about any detail at the moment. All of it is just black. Here I found an image of a rock. Funnily enough, it's going to be turned black because it's also going to be a silhouette, so I'm not worried about any detail on the rock whatsoever. I'm going to use the same thing here. I'm just going to desaturate and bring the lightness right the way down, and boom, it's now a rock in the foreground silhouette. Easy. Different rock this time. Move a little bit over somewhere else. Again, no detail needed in that rock at all. It's just going to be what Grogu is going to be standing on. And done. Easy. Guys, this is easier than you think it is, honestly. Find these bits and pieces. Now I took pictures of branches that I found in various places across the internet. Messed around with them, changed them around, all that kind of stuff. And I will be adding more. Now the idea of these is to frame the image but at the moment I'm going to start working on a little bit of the background colour. I don't want the background colour to be that colour, I want it to be something in the orange. I think I eventually went with a blue, that blue you see there, but I'm going to stick with orange for the time being because I want to show you that you can create this as a almost like sunset if you like, but eventually if you see the image, it's going to be a moon rather than the sun, but it could be either, right? That's the idea of this. So I'm now going to start taking more elements and making those into my kind of frame. I'm going to frame, if you watch this episode of Mandalorian where we see Ahsoka and Grogu getting to know each other almost, they're in a kind of wasteland landscape full of rocks, full of sort of burnt out trees. We're on a planet that's been almost decimated almost, and this is kind of the idea I'm going for. So larger elements of branches and stuff like that I'm going to be putting up in the corners. And you can also use Photoshop to render your own trees. Now this is what I did here. It's quite simple. Going to filter, render, then trees, funnily enough. And you can have a play around with these sliders. You can take all the leaves off the trees. You've got different trees. So you've got a selection of something like 30 odd different trees there. And you can have a massive play with this. If you're using light sources, you can determine where the light source is coming from. Again, this is a silhouette, so I'm not that worried about where my light source is coming from. But you can change the shape, all kinds of bits and pieces you can play around with here. This is pretty awesome actually, that Photoshop can do this for you. And then I just render that out, move it where I need to move it, and do the same thing again. I use the lightness to bring the lightness down in the hue, saturation and lightness, luminance. So bring that all the way down, or not so far in this case, because that tree is actually going to be off in the slight distance. So it's going to be slightly lighter. If you look at the end image, I use obviously everything that's in the foreground is going to be really, really dark, so it's going to be black, and everything a bit further or closer to the sun or further away from us is just going to be slightly lighter, so it gives an idea of perspective, and that's the idea here. So that tree is going to be sort of moved in a second to that area, and it's going to be behind that rock, and it's going to have that kind of brightness. I think that rock's probably a bit too bright at the moment. I think I'll turn that down in a second. But you see what I mean, how easy this is. Really, this, I mean, it took me half hour to do, and I have speeded some bits up here. But you just have to think about the various elements. The hardest part of this was rendering the trees. It took a long time to render those trees out. I say hard, it's not hard, it's just time consuming. So here's another tree. I'm going to go for another one here, and I know I'll speed this up quite a bit when it renders. And again, turn the lightness right down. That simple, guys and girls. I'm going to be doing another one. Here we get a rock from YouTube. The same rock actually as I've used before. I'm just going to be messing around with transforming it, spinning it around, using different sides, all that kind of stuff. But I will be doing other images like this. This 2D art is really easy to do, and I want to do some more for the Mando season that we've had. Actually, if you're a Star Wars fan, you'll understand what I mean. It's been quite an incredible journey we've had in the last 2 or 3 months of the Mando season 2. I'm just rearranging some of the layers here. So obviously that rock that's further away is even lighter than the one. So there's kind of 3 layers almost that I've got here. I've got the foreground, the middle ground, and that rock a bit further in the background. I think I'll move it again in a minute. Because I wanted it a little bit lower than Grogu's head, because that perspective is kind of, the horizon's a bit further down. Yes, that's one thing I want to do, is do more of these 2D art, show you how to do these. It's really simple. It's just a matter of having to play around. Remember the perspective. Your stuff in the foreground to be a little bit darker. You can play with the colours here. I used black and the greys to get that perspective, but you can use colour as well. So you can use like proper colour theory in Photoshop itself. Really easy. Now to add the moon or the sun, it's going to eventually be a moon. I hold down Shift to get the elliptical tool to go as an actual circle, if you like, a proper circle. And all we're going to do here is just fill it with white. I'm a little bit ahead of the video. Fill it with white, and then we need to understand how the perspective is going to look in terms of blurriness, because obviously everything's in focus. would be like Grogu, that kind of stuff. So I now want to start looking at making the rocks and the trees that are a little bit further away slightly blurry, and I can use Gaussian blur for that quite easy. So I'm going to search through the different layers here. I think eventually I'll do label a little bit better my layers, but for those layers that are a bit further away, quite simply blur, Gaussian blur, add a slight blurriness to it, and the ones that are further away, even more of a blur is going to make that look even better. And find the next rock. Where are we? I have put these in groups, so I've grouped the layers. So I've got the close layers, like Grogu and that kind of stuff, in one group, and then the rocks and the trees are a little bit further away in another group. You can make a group by just hitting Control or Command G. And the sun, of course, does need a bit of a blur because that's even further away than the rest of this stuff. If you're blurring stuff in increments, and then the furthest thing away needs to have the blur. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to on a layer beneath the sun, and I'm going to put that into dodge, I think linear dodge mode. Just add a couple of taps of white, so that just gives it a bit of a sunbursty effect, if you like. And now we can change the background color to whatever we like. We can now go for the blue, make it a moon, nighttime shot, which kind of makes sense for the scene that we had. Yeah, perfect. Love that. Guys and girls, this is really easy. It doesn't take a lot at all. Take a couple of pictures, put them in different layers, lighten the layers a little bit further behind, and blur those layers slightly so you get a bit of a depth field. And this kind of stuff doesn't take much at all. I love this kind of stuff. I'm going to be doing a lot more. So if you haven't done so already, please subscribe, hit the notification bell so you get updates every time I upload a new video. And I hope to see you in another video. Hopefully, if you like this video, please drop me a comment down below. I love reading your comments, love answering your comments. And I will see you on a future one. Take care. Bye. Which version do you prefer? Answers in the comments. Still here, nice. It's good that you're still here because I want to tell you a little something. Those people who are avid followers of me, I want to give a little something back, and to do that it means working alongside you online because a lot of you can't make it to my workshop. So I've just set up a Patreon account. It is patreon.com/Andy Hornby Photos. So Patreon is a platform where we can create stuff together even if you're halfway across the globe, and I can learn and teach alongside you, literally alongside you. There's so many things I can do to help you get your photography just to that next level. It is awesome. If you can make it to one of my workshops, I've got a website. Go to ahphotographyworkshops.uk and have a look, see what I've got going on. But if you can't make it to one of my workshops, Patreon is a really good platform where we can create stuff together and we can take your photography to another level. So if you like what I'm doing and you want me to learn alongside yourself, see you there. Take it easy, have a good day. Bye.